On this week's episode of Hockey Inside Out, we investigate who's to blame for the Habs' most recent hot streak and also ask the question, what the hell is Alexei Emelin still doing on the team? I'm Adam Susser, joining you from downtown Montreal with their A-team. They're back with a vengeance from the storm. They beat the storm. Stu Cowan, Jessica Rusnak, and Mr. Chris Nilan sitting beside me. Here's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Number 1, who's more responsible for the Habs' current hot streak, Claude Julien or Carey Price? Number 2, should Claude Julien keep Galchenyuk, Pacioretty, and Radulov as the number 1 line? Number 3, how do you explain Paul Byron being the second highest goal scorer on the team? Number 4, our viewer question of the week asks how much of an effect Andrew Shaw and Dwight King will have on the team in the playoffs. And number 5, why does Claude Julien still keep Alexei Emelin in the lineup? Let's start the show. Marc Bergevin avoided another midseason meltdown when he decided to replace Michel Therrien with Claude Julien a little over a month ago. Since the new coach came into the fray, the Habs have a pretty impressive 8-4 record, and Carey Price has a 7-3 record. And before Tuesday night's loss against Chicago, allowed only 12 goals in 9 games, which is nuts. Would you credit Claude Julien for the Habs turnaround, or do you think it's more of a case of Carey Price just rediscovering his love for the game of hockey?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, Julien's swarming defensive system has really cut down on the shots against, the shots that Carey Price has been facing. He's been limiting them to below 30 shots a lot of games. And if you can keep the opposition to below 30 shots with Carey Price in net, there's a good chance you're going to win a lot of games. So I think that's been the biggest difference since Julien has come in. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think Julien's done a really good job adjusting the system, and Carey Price has become Carey Price again.
I think it's a little bit of who came first, the chicken or the egg. Claude Julien's system has allowed Carey Price to rediscover his game again, and because of that, Carey Price is playing the way that they need him to play, especially during this stretch now. So I would say the credit first goes to Claude Julien and the new system that he's put in, and then next to Carey Price to being able to play the way that everyone knows he can.
I'm going to say the team, in a sense, because the penalty killing's gotten a whole lot better with this coach. There's no question about it. They still have work to do on their own end. We saw the other night, they had 4 guys outside the faceoff dot against 1 player. And they leave one of the most dangerous goal scorers in the league all alone in front of the net. So they have work to do. They've been a team that did not play well in their end through this entire year. Carey Price has gotten way too many good scoring chances against them. And, you know, we're quick to point out his deficiencies when he was going through that rough patch. But, you know, he was hung out to dry on a lot of nights. And we're still seeing flashes of that. I hope Claude Julien can correct this problem, because going into the playoffs, if they make these bonehead plays they're making, they're going to be in trouble. It's
impressive, though, what he has done, because he hasn't had a lot of time. It's like a month, and he hasn't had a lot of practices. They've had maybe in the last month half a dozen like real full practice. But excuse, yeah. But he has. I mean, his system has. He has managed to get it going. And as we've said before, I think he was a breath of fresh air in the room. Also after Michel Therrien. So I think Claude Julien's done a good job since he's come here with the cards he's been dealt.
Okay, against Chicago on Tuesday night, Claude Julien reunited Pacioretty, Radulov, and Galchenyuk to form a true number 1 line. They didn't really score more goals. Do you think they should leave that line as is? Will that result in more goals?
It's nice that he put them back together, but I think he does it out of desperation more than anything. The team has trouble scoring, and when they do, he likes to spread it out. I get it. I've seen a big improvement in Galchenyuk in his own end. I hope he keeps going that way. He doesn't seem as lost as he was early in the season and at the midway point of the season. So maybe this coach is getting to this player, which is a good thing. But that line together, I'd say spot duty, because, again, they don't have the goal scoring. I get it, but you got to spread it around the lineup. If you don't spread it around the lineup, you're going to be easy to match against. You're not going to be dangerous at all.
I want Galchenyuk to be that number 1 center that everyone was looking for. And when they drafted him, everyone said, here is finally the solution to our problem of not having a big center. So I would like Galchenyuk really to seize this opportunity, because it seems like every single year this is his year. He's moving from the wing. He's at center. Now he's playing with 2 talented forwards that can help him. But as we saw before, he lost that position to Phillip Danault. So now it's really up to Galchenyuk to really regain that position and say that he owns it.
I think he's going to spot them also like he did in Edmonton when they couldn't generate offense and he put them together in the third period. Then he started the game Chicago against them. What I wonder about this too, and talk with Max about playing with Galchenyuk. He never sounds thrilled about it. He doesn't say anything bad about Galchenyuk, but he just doesn't. He talked about after the Chicago game about how they still had problems coming out of their own zone with the puck. And I think Max maybe prefers playing with Dano or a guy like that who does a lot of work in their own end that's more responsible.
There you go.
So I think that might come into a lot of it, is whether, as much as fans and people maybe want to see Alex Galchenyuk as the number one center, I'm not exactly sure how comfortable Max Pacioretty is playing with Alex Galchenyuk. And the thing with, Max Pacioretty has 33 goals. He's 3 off the NHL lead, playing with all these different centers. So the thing with Max is that whoever he plays with, he seems to be able to score, but I'm not sure how comfortable he is playing with.
And the thing is, who's going to get the puck when they're out there together? Who's Radulov going to give it to? Is he going to give it to Galchenyuk or Pacioretty? It's not so much Galchenyuk being the playmaker there. The winger is the playmaker, and it's Radulov, because he's the one who goes in and gets the puck. He's the one who makes the plays with the puck. And Galchenyuk does at times, but he is really the sentiment on that line.
Well,
Radulov.
they're two offensive guys are the wingers, Radulov and Pacioretty. Radulov's a setup man, Pacioretty's the finisher, and they need somebody to do that sort of grunt work down the middle.
Okay, the number 2 goal scorer on the team is Paul Byron. He's 5'9" and 160. That's just like a shorter version of me out there. How do you explain him being the second highest goal scorer on the Habs right now?
160 pounds and about 100 of it is his heart. I mean, this guy comes to play. I mean, he fought in Calgary, and they were throwing haymakers. He's just a guy. He's talked about how he played lacrosse as a kid. He played rugby as a kid. He likes the physical going. He likes going to the blue paint, and he continues to just impress me. Just how he's willing to pay the price and go to those dirty areas, and with that speed he has when he gets a chance, and he's good on breakaways too. So he's really impressed me. I think it's a case of wanting to score, and as a result, he's scoring.
I agree with his speed. If you saw the game in Edmonton, how he was really able to make the difference because his speed allowed him to get up front of the play. But I remember seeing Paul Byron when I was covering the Montreal Juniors, and they always played the Gatineau Olympic, and he was one of the stars on that team. And I remember just thinking just how speedy he was able to be, and also his playmaking ability and his way to find different opportunities to make a difference in a game by scoring those big goals. And he's just constantly had that mentality that he needs to work that much harder because he doesn't have the size for it. And perhaps other teams maybe underestimate him as well, that when they're circling a game, Paul Byron's not a household name, that maybe they don't really think of it too much. Speed,
tenacity, and willingness. And the willingness being the willingness to do things that some of his teammates just won't do, and that's go to the dangerous areas, go to the blue paint, come around the net when you're going to get your head taken off. Some guys just won't do that. Challenge guys on the outside defenseman and try and get to the net. And some of his teammates don't do that. And to me, it has a lot to do with his willingness. The speed, who's going to catch him? No one. Yeah. But his willingness to go to those places are what makes him successful.
The goal he scored in Edmonton, he fought off 3 defenders. 3 Oilers had him in the corner, and he blew past all of them and came in. As we're saying, he's 160 pounds, but he's a pretty chiseled 160 pounds. When you see him in the room afterwards, he's got a muscular physique for a small guy.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I wonder how many times he gets carded when he tries to go buy beer.
I asked him that question, and he said it still happens when he goes, especially outside of Quebec, where the age is 21. If he goes to a beer store, he gets asked for his ID.
Do you think he'll be as effective in the playoffs?
That's a good question. I mean, the effort will be the same. I mean, they just wonder how he might wear down over 7 games in 14 days or whatever. But I mean, Paul Byron's proven to me since he's come here that his work ethic and his heart can't be questioned. So I think in the playoffs we'll see the same out of him, but it will be a little bit more difficult, as it is for everybody. Okay, it's time for our HIO viewer question of the week. This week's viewer question comes to us from YouTube. The question is, do you think that the Canadiens will score more goals in the playoffs because of players like Andrew Shaw and Dwight King, who have extensive playoff experience?
No, because even though they have playoff experience, they're not the guys that you rely on to be goal scorers. They're the fourth line guys, they're the energy guys. Yeah, I'm hoping that they do score a few goals, but I'm not leaning on Dwight King or Andrew Shaw to be leading the way in the playoffs. No, and Dwight King, I think, is -3 in 6 games with the Canadiens. It's Marc Bergevin didn't really do anything to help the offense with those trade deadline deals. They're not going to score goals. So I think scoring goals will continue to be a problem for this team and become even more difficult in the playoffs. And especially we're talking about playing that number 1 line. If they stack one line, it's pretty easy to shut down a one-line team.
Andrew Shaw maybe chip in a few goals in the playoffs. He's done it before. I remember in the series against Boston, Stanley Cup final, he scored some big goals. So he could be a guy that's going to score. Dwight King, not too sure.
Do you think, though, that players like Dwight King, Steve Ott, the bigger players, maybe just because they'll wear other teams down could indirectly lead to more goals? Because that's something, again, I've said it before, this team is bigger than we've seen it in a long time.
I think that was Marc Bergevin's thinking. You know, they have a huge fourth line. You put out Ott and Martinson and King or McCarron, and I guess they're going to be difficult to play against for the defensemen on the other team. And I guess that's what Marc Bergevin's thinking was, we'll put out a bigger fourth line that might wear down the defense, make them a little bit more tired when Pacioretty and the other guys get out there.
Just to be tougher to play against. That's, you know, a line like that's going to wear some guys down. They're going to bang. They're going to have guys having to keep their head up on the ice. That's what you want from your fourth line. So, you know, they'll chip in. Is it necessarily going to result in goals? Who knows?
From what I've seen so far, I'd rather see Mike McCarron in the lineup than Dwight King.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Many people would argue that Alexei Emelin is the weakest link on the Habs right now. If you watch the Chicago game, he seemed to have a hand in every goal that Chicago scored. The first goal, he was just, Anisimov spun around him. He seemed like he just gave up. There was no heart there. Why is he still in the lineup?
When Julien made him a healthy scratch in Vancouver, he kept saying about how we're a better team with him in the top six. He is a top six defenseman, and he said it might help him to sit and watch the game from the press box. But I think it backfired because I think his confidence was already shaky, and I think after being a healthy scratch, it was shattered. And I think Shea Weber, I think it shows you how steady Shea Weber is, and that Emelin looked good when he was playing with Weber all that time, and all of a sudden when they took him off, he didn't look so good. It sort of reminds me of Mike Komisarek when he used to play with Markov, and then they took him away. He wasn't the same defenseman. So right now, I think Emelin's confidence is just shattered, and I think it's going to take more than one game to sit him in the box. I don't see how you can keep Nathan Beaulieu as a healthy scratch to play Alexei Emelin going forward.
I don't think his confidence is going to get any better by him playing games because he was the direct cause of the 3 of the 4 goals that Chicago scored there. So I think that he should have been in the press box. He shouldn't have been playing in that Chicago game. I know he was hoping, and as Claude Julien said, that he wants Alexei Emelin to be that Alexei Emelin he used to face when he was the coach of Boston, but right now he's not doing anything to help him. I don't know, Stu, what do they serve in the press box in Vancouver that completely threw him off his game?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's almost like he's been taken over. Someone has some mind control, spirit control, whatever, because he's making crazy mistakes, like coming way over to the other side of the rink, opposite side of where he's supposed to be. The mistakes he's making are not Alexei Emelin. Listen, there was times he'd run around and get wild and be caught out of position. I get it. But this is something else. To me, this is a mental thing with him. And confidence, you can say confidence, but something's going on with this kid. To play this bad for this long a time, this many games, it's out of character for him. Listen, he's never been the best player out there, but the kid's always worked hard. He supplied the Canadiens with a physical presence that they never had. No one did what he did on the ice. He was the only one who could bring it. And I kind of feel bad for him because he's kind of become the butt of all the jokes now, how bad he is. And I feel bad for him. I hope he can figure this thing out. And it certainly is out of character for him. And I want to see him get better because he can help this hockey club. If that means setting him out again for a couple games, then you do it. But believe me, if this game Saturday night gets really physical and he's not in the lineup, people are going to be wishing he was.
And the thing with him, he doesn't pick his spots either. I mean, Boston, the games against Lucic, he doesn't pick his spots on who he lines up for the big body check. So, I think they do need to try and get him back on track.
Okay, well, whatever happens, Alexei Emelin, if you're watching, you have Chris Nilan's pity. Okay, that's our show for this week. We want to thank you all for tuning in. We want to thank Cass, Stu, Jessica, and Chris for showing up. We'll be back next Thursday, barring another snowstorm. Let us know what you think about what we discussed on today's show in the comments section on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and share. I'm Adam Susser, and we'll see you next week, Habs fans.